The August heat made the blacktop shimmer like water that wasn't there. She lay on her side in the gravel, one arm stretched toward the road, fingers curled like she'd been reaching for something when she fell. Her left boot had no sole, just the leather upper, laces still tied, and underneath a sock she'd torn from her own shirt wrapped around raw meat that used to be a heel. The right boot was split at the toe. Both feet had bled through, wedding ring on her finger, twisted backward. The band had worn a groove in her skin. Designer jeans, torn at both knees, silk blouse, expensive once, now shredded at the collar. Dust in her dark hair, like ash from a fire that had already burned out. Mile marker 47 behind her. If she'd walked from the nearest town, that was 30 miles. If she'd walked from somewhere else, it was further. Vultures circled, 2 of them. On the horizon, monsoon clouds were building, purple-black and tall as mountains. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of distant rain that wouldn't arrive in time. Her hand twitched once toward the empty road, then went still. He'd been heading home from town, with fence wire, in the truck bed, and his mind on the stock tank that needed draining. 70 miles of Highway 9 between Tres Cruces and his ranch, and in 11 years he'd driven past 3 breakdowns, 2 hitchhikers, and a stray dog without slowing down once. The '72 Ford F-250 was doing 60 when he saw her. At first, she was just a dark shape against the gravel. Could have been a coyote. Could have been trash blown off someone's flatbed. But then, he saw the hand, stretched toward the road, fingers curled, reaching for something that wasn't there. His foot hit the brake before his brain caught up. The truck shuddered, tires bit asphalt, left 2 black lines 50 feet long. He sat there with the engine idling, hands on the wheel, staring at her in the rearview mirror. Not your problem. That's what he'd been telling himself for 11 years. Other people's trouble wasn't his to carry. He had his own ghosts, his own closed doors. But that hand. The way it reached, he put the truck in reverse. Up close, it was worse. The boot with no sole. The blood-soaked sock. Bruises on her arms shaped like fingers. Her face was turned away from him, dark hair matted with dust. But when he knelt beside her, she flinched before her eyes even opened. "Don't—" Her voice came out cracked, barely there. "You hurt?" Silas kept his distance, hands visible. "I ain't gonna— Please don't. Storm's coming. Can't leave you out here." She tried to focus on him. Her eyes were gray-green, wide, with the kind of terror that wasn't about dying. It was about living through something worse. When he reached for her arm to help her up, she jerked back hard enough to gasp with pain. "Easy." He pulled his hands away. "Just trying to get you to the truck? And I can—" She tried to stand, got halfway up, and her legs quit. She would have hit the gravel face first if he hadn't caught her. She fought him. Weak, half-conscious. Probably couldn't have pushed away a child, but she fought anyway. All instinct and terror. "I got you," he said, gentle as he could. "I got you." She went still in his arms. Weighed nothing, felt like lifting a sparrow with broken wings. He carried her to the truck, and the whole way she kept checking the road behind them, twisting in his grip to see if someone was coming. Even semi-conscious, she was watching for pursuit. He wrapped her in the horse blanket from the truck bed and set her in the passenger seat. She curled into the corner against the door, pulled the blanket up to her chin, and stared at him like he might change his mind about mercy. "Name's Silas," he said. "Silas Kern. I'm taking you to my place. It's closer than the hospital." She opened her mouth, closed it. Whatever she'd been about to say got swallowed by exhaustion or fear or both. He shut the door carefully and walked around to the driver's side. Through the windshield, he could see the monsoon coming, wall of rain moving across the desert like God's own curtain closing on the day. He started the engine and headed home. Iris Tunstall came out on the porch when she heard the truck, coffee cup in hand, and stopped mid-step when she saw Silas carrying the woman inside. In 20 years of keeping house for him, she'd never seen him bring another soul through that door. Not once. "Lord have mercy," Iris whispered. She set the coffee down and moved fast for a woman her age. Got the guest room door open, stripped back the blanket that had been on that bed, unused for 11 years, helped him lay the woman down gentle. What happened to her? Don't know. Found her on Highway 9. Iris was already examining her, checking pulse, looking at the bruises, the split lip, the way she flinched even unconscious when Iris touched her ribs. Someone hurt this girl. Bad. I figured. She say who? Didn't say nothing. Iris peeled off the woman's jacket, and something fell out of the inside pocket. A document folded in thirds. Official-looking, thick paper. She picked it up, unfolded it partway. Her face went still. Silas. Not now. Let her rest. Silas, you need to— later. He looked at the woman on the bed, her face finally peaceful in unconsciousness. Dark hair spread on the pillow, hands curled like she was still trying to hold on to something. And for just a second, he saw Jacob's face instead. Jacob reaching up from the water. He turned and walked out before Iris could see him shake. Sunlight came through white curtains, soft and clean. Elena lay still, trying to place where she was. Not the ranch house, not the truck Dwight had taken, not the desert. And then the pain arrived. Feet throbbing, ribs aching, lips swollen where he'd split it. She sat up fast, heart hammering. The jacket, there, folded on the chair. She lunged for it, nearly fell, caught herself on the bedpost. Reached into the inside pocket with shaking hands. The deed was still there. She breathed. On the nightstand, clean bandages, a glass of water, clothes laid out that weren't hers. Women's jeans, a faded blue work shirt, socks, all worn but freshly washed. She looked down at her feet. Someone had cleaned the wounds, wrapped them in gauze, left her old boots, what was left of them, on newspaper by the door, like evidence of something that had happened to someone else. The smell of coffee pulled her toward the door. Iris was at the stove when Elena limped into the kitchen, one hand on the wall for balance. The older woman didn't turn around, just said, "Sit before you fall." Elena lowered herself into a chair. The table was set for one. Plate of cornbread, scrambled eggs, butter, jam, coffee already poured, steam rising. "I should," Elena started. "Eat." Iris set a fork beside the plate. "You got opinions about food after you put some in you." Elena tried to go slow, failed. Hadn't eaten in 3 days, and her body didn't care about pride. She was halfway through the eggs when she remembered to breathe. Iris refilled the coffee without asking. "Thank you," Elena said quietly. "For what?" "The clothes, the bandages, the—" She gestured at the plate. "That's just decency." Iris sat down across from her with her own cup. "You got a name?" "Elena." "Elena what?" Elena hesitated. "Just Elena." Iris nodded like she'd expected that. "All right, just Elena. I'm Iris. You're in Silas Kern's house, about 40 miles west of Tres Cruces. You've been here 2 days. 2, Elena's hand went to her ribs. "I don't remember." "You woke up a few times, fever talking mostly. Doctor came out yesterday, gave you fluids, said you'd live if you wanted to. I don't have money for a doctor. Didn't ask for any." The screen door opened and Silas came in, hat in hand, shirt dark with sweat from working. He stopped when he saw Elena at the table. For a second, neither of them moved. "You're up," he said. "Yeah." He nodded, went to the sink, washed his hands, dried them on the towel hanging by the window, poured himself coffee, and leaned against the counter instead of sitting. Long silence. Meadowlark outside. Tick of the kitchen clock. Iris broke it. "Lord have mercy, you two talk like you're at a funeral." "Elena, you like your eggs?" "Yes, ma'am, thank you." "See? Words don't cost nothing." Iris looked at Silas. "She's got a name. Elena." "Silas Kern," he said to Elena. "This your ranch?" "Some of it." Another pause. They sized each other up, her in his dead housekeeper's daughter's old clothes, him standing like he didn't quite know what to do with a guest. "Why'd you stop?" Elena asked. "Storm was bad. Lots of people wouldn't." "I ain't lots of people." Iris stood up. "I'm gonna go check the garden before I have to referee." She squeezed Elena's shoulder on the way out. "You need anything, you holler." After Iris left, Silas stayed by the counter. Elena drank her coffee and looked out the window at the desert stretching forever. Ocotillo and creosote, mesas in the distance turning purple in the heat. "You always this quiet?" she asked. "Words are like water out here. Don't waste 'em." She almost smiled, caught herself. He set his cup down. "You got people we should call?" "No." "Husband?" Her hand went to the ring without thinking. She'd forgotten she was still wearing it. "No." Silas looked at her for a long moment. The bruises, the split lip, the way she'd checked the window twice since sitting down, and nodded. "All right. That's it? You're not gonna—" "None of my business, unless you make it my business." And she didn't know what to do with that. Kindness without questions, hospitality without price. "How long was I out there?" she asked. "Before you found me." "Don't know." "But you walked far enough to wear through boot leather, and another 10 miles after that." 47 miles, she said quietly, "from mile marker 0. His jaw tightened. He didn't ask from what, just, "You want to rest more, or you want to try walking?" "Walk." She made it to the porch before her legs quit, sat in the rocker, breathed hard, furious at her own weakness. Silas brought her a glass of water, didn't say anything, just set it on the railing, and stood looking at the same horizon she was watching. 60 seconds of silence. Wind in the mesquite, distant cattle lowing, a pump running somewhere. Out in the corral, she could see horses, 3 of them standing in the shade. Silas walked down, after a while, climbed the fence, approached the bay mare with his hand out. The horse came to him easy. He stroked her neck, spoke too soft to hear. Gentle hands, patient voice. Big rough man, tender with things that spooked easy. Elena watched him work and felt something crack open in her chest that she'd thought Dwight had sealed shut, for good. When he came back to the porch, she said, "You live here alone?" "Iris keeps house. Comes 5 days a week." "No family?" His face went carefully blank. "No." She looked up at the second floor. One window had a light glowing behind the curtain, even in daylight. "Someone else live here?" He stiffened. "No. But the lamp, leave it. Sharp enough to cut." He walked inside without another word. Elena sat there, staring at that window. The lamp burning in the middle of the day, like someone was keeping vigil for something that wouldn't come. Back. Iris appeared on the steps, quieter now. "Don't mind him. That room's got ghosts." "His? Ours." She went inside, leaving Elena alone with the desert and the wind and the light that shouldn't be burning. She'd been doing it since the first time he hit her, checking rear-view mirrors, windows, reflections in glass, always watching for him coming, always ready to run. But this morning, she'd walked to the porch, sat in the rocker, and looked at the desert for 20 minutes straight without once glancing over her shoulder. The realization hit like cold water. She was forgetting to be afraid, and that meant she was forgetting he was still out there. That evening, the monsoon came early. Clouds stacked up over the mesa like bruises, and the wind started pushing tumbleweeds across the yard before supper. Iris was at the stove making chili when the first drops hit, fat and heavy, smacking the tin roof like fists. "Finally," Iris said. "We've been needing this." The lights flickered once, twice, went out. Iris sighed. "Power lines can't handle weather. Silas, you got the—" But he was already heading upstairs. Elena heard his boots on the floorboards above. A door opening, the one he never opened. A long pause, then footsteps coming back down, slower now. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, holding the brass lamp, the same one from the upstairs window, the one that had been burning there every night since she'd arrived, since before she'd arrived, since however long. His hands were shaking. Iris went quiet. Elena watched him cross to the table and set the lamp down, careful, like it might break if he moved wrong. He had matches in his shirt pocket, struck one, lifted the glass chimney, touched flame to wick. Yellow light bloomed across the kitchen. "Silas?" Iris said softly. "Power's out." His voice was flat. "Need light." "Is that the one from upstairs?" Elena asked. He wouldn't look at her. "It works." They ate dinner by lamplight. Silas kept his eyes on his bowl, but Elena saw him glance at the flame every few minutes like it might speak to him, like it knew something he was trying to remember or trying to forget. After the meal, he stood, reached for the lamp. The lights flickered, tried to come back, and died again. "Grid's out," Iris said, looking out at the darkness beyond the windows. "Won't be back till morning." Silas stood there holding the lamp, caught. He could take it back upstairs and sit in the dark. Or he could leave it down here, where people who weren't ghosts could use it. Elena saw the decision break him. He set it back on the table. "Use it if you need it." He went to bed without another word. An hour later, Elena couldn't sleep. The storm was too loud, rain hammering the roof, thunder rolling across the desert like God-moving furniture. She got up, wrapped herself in the quilt from the bed, and padded to the kitchen. The lamp was still burning. Iris was there already, standing at the window with a cup of tea, watching the rain. "Can't sleep either?" Elena asked. "Storm like this, sleep's a waste. Might as well watch the show." Iris poured a second cup without asking. "Chamomile. Might take the edge off." They sat at the table with the lamp between them. "How long's he been burning that?" Elena asked. Iris looked at her for a long moment, deciding something. 11 years. Every night. First time he's brought it down since... She stopped. "Since what?" "Since he lost his boy." The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Elena's breath caught. "He had a son?" "Jacob. 7 years old. Drowned in a stock tank July 4th, 1977. Silas was in town buying fireworks for the holiday. Came home at dusk, found him floating." Elena closed her eyes. Saw Silas's face when she'd asked about the lamp. The way he shut down, the careful blankness. "The lamp was Jacob's," Iris continued. "He was scared of the dark. Silas kept it burning in his room every night. After the boy died, Silas, he just kept lighting it. Like maybe if the light stayed on, some part of Jacob would still be..." Her voice broke. "Jesus," Elena whispered. "That room upstairs, that's Jacob's room. Silas hasn't set foot in there since the day of the funeral. But he keeps the lamp burning. Iris refills the kerosene every week. He pays the bill and doesn't say a word about it." The rain hammered harder. "Why are you telling me this?" Elena asked. Iris looked at her steady. "Because you're the first person he's let through that door in 11 years. And I don't think you understand what that means." Elena stared at the lamp flame. I called him a stranger. You didn't know. He knew about me. The deed. Iris, you saw it that first night, didn't you? Iris nodded. Saw your name. Saw the property. 22,000 acres. Biggest ranch in 3 counties. And you didn't say anything. Oh, it wasn't my business. Still isn't. Iris sipped her tea. But I'll tell you something, child. That man upstairs, he knew too. I told him that first night. Didn't change a thing for him. Elena's throat tightened. Why not? Because Silas Kern don't measure people by what they own. He measures them by whether they're hurting. Iris leaned forward. You want to know why he stopped for you? It wasn't charity. It wasn't guilt. It was because he saw someone reaching for help, and his body moved before his brain could talk him out of it. But his son, Jacob's gone. Has been for 11 years. But Silas, he's been gone too. Walking around, working, breathing, but gone. You're the first thing in a decade that made him come back even a little. Thunder cracked so close the windows rattled. Elena wrapped her hands around the teacup. What if I make it worse? What if you make it better? Morning came clear and cool, the desert washed clean. Elena found Silas in the barn, checking a mare's hoof. She stood in the doorway, not sure how to start. Iris told me, she said finally, about Jacob. His hand stopped. Didn't look up. She shouldn't have. I'm glad she did. He set the mare's hoof down, gentle, straightened. Don't change nothing. It changes everything. She took a step closer. You lost your son and you still stopped for me. Storm was bad. Stop saying that. Her voice cracked. You saved my life. And I don't even know how to... Don't. He finally looked at her. Don't make it more than it was. What was it then? He was quiet for a long time. Can't save everybody, but don't mean you quit trying. The words hit her like a fist. She nodded, throat too tight to speak, and walked back to the house before he could see her cry. That afternoon, Elena helped Iris in the garden, or tried to. Her hands were clumsy with the trowel, her feet still too tender to kneel long, but she wanted to be useful, wanted to earn the safety she'd been given. Your husband the one hurt you? Iris asked, voice casual, like she was asking about the weather. Elena's hands stilled in the dirt. Yeah. He know where you are? I don't think so. But he's got connections, sheriff, lawyers, half the ranchers in 3 counties. What's his name? Dwight Howell. Iris's face went carefully neutral. The double V foreman. Was my daddy's foreman. Then we got married and Elena couldn't finish. Your daddy passed recently? 8 months ago. Cancer. And then this Dwight showed his real face. He wanted the ranch, tried to make me sign it over. When I wouldn't, she touched her ribs without thinking. Iris put down her trowel. Mija, you go to the law. Elena laughed, bitter. He knows the sheriff. They play poker every Thursday. And his lawyer's the best in the county. She looked at Iris. I'm nobody. I got a deed that says I own land, but everybody thinks Dwight runs it. Has for years. My word against his? I'm just the crazy widow who ran off. You ain't crazy and you ain't alone. Elena wanted to believe that. Later, she saw the sheriff's truck drive by slow on the county road. Didn't stop. Just rolled past at 15 miles an hour, the driver looking hard at Silas's house. Her chest went tight. She stepped back from the window. That night, the phone rang. Rare enough that all 3 of them looked up. Silas answered. Kern. Pause. No. Another pause. Wrong number. He hung up. Elena's voice was small. Who was it? Nobody. Silas. Wrong number. He looked at her, and she saw the lie in his eyes. Saw him choosing it. You need anything from town tomorrow? No. Good. Storm might have washed out the crossing anyway. He went to bed early. Iris touched Elena's arm. He's keeping you safe the only way he knows how? By lying. By deciding you matter more than the truth. Elena looked at the lamp, still burning on the kitchen table. Still down here, instead of locked away upstairs, something was shifting. In him, in her, in the careful distance they'd been keeping. And somewhere out there, Dwight was looking. She was in the garden with Iris when the truck pulled up. Black Dodge Ram. Too clean for ranch work. El Paso plates. Elena's hands went cold in the dirt. The passenger door opened, and a man stepped out in a suit that cost more than most people made in a month. Behind him, Sheriff Byers climbed out of his cruiser, hat in hand, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Iris, Elena whispered. I need to breathe, child. But she was already standing, backing toward the house. The lawyer saw her, smiled like a coyote that had found the hen house open. Mrs. Howell, he called. A word, please? Silas came around from the barn, rifle in one hand, not pointed at anyone but present. He looked at the lawyer, the sheriff, then Elena. "Nobody here by that name," he said. "I'm afraid there is." The lawyer pulled out a folder. Elena Marie Howell, age 39, reported missing by her husband, Dwight Howell, 8 days ago. "We've been looking for you, ma'am." Elena stood frozen on the porch. Every instinct screamed and run, but there was nowhere left to go. "Mrs. Howell?" Sheriff Byers stepped forward, trying for gentle. "We just need to verify you're all right." "I'm fine." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "That's not what it looks like." He gestured at the fading bruises on her arms, the split lip that was still healing. "You want to tell us what happened?" "I fell." The lawyer's smile widened. "Of course, these things happen. Mr. Howell was quite distressed when you disappeared. He's prepared to be very generous in reconciliation. Half of everything in the settlement." Elena's hands curled into fists. "Get off this property." Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but your husband has legal standing." "He's not my husband anymore." Silas was watching her face, watching the way she held herself. Then he looked at the sheriff. "She don't want to talk to you. That's her right." The lawyer turned to him, reassessing. "Mr. Kern?" "Silas Kern, correct? You own this ranch." "That's right. 3,200 acres. Feed supply business. Quite successful." The lawyer's tone shifted, became calculated. "Did you know Mrs. Howell here is wealthy in her own right? Perhaps she didn't mention it." Elena's stomach dropped. Silas went very still. "What?" "The Double V Ranch, 22,000 acres. Largest cattle operation in 3 counties. Mrs. Howell inherited it from her late father. She owns it outright." He paused, watching Silas's face. "I'm surprised she didn't tell you. Then again, perhaps she had her reasons." Silas looked at Elena. She saw the question in his eyes, and behind it, something breaking. "You didn't tell me that," he said quietly. She couldn't get the words out. "You let me think you were nobody." "That's not—" The lawyer pressed his advantage. "Mr. Kern, I don't know what Mrs. Howell has told you, but the situation is complicated. There are questions about her mental state following her father's death. The stress, the grief, it's understandable she might become confused about who to trust." I'm not confused," Elena said, voice shaking with rage now. "And he doesn't have power of attorney. The will Dad signed left everything to me, not Dwight." The lawyer's smile slipped. "I'm afraid that's disputed. Mr. Howell has documentation, forged documentation. I have the original. Witnessed and notarized." She pulled herself up straighter. "All 22,000 acres. Sole heir. And that son of a bitch knows it. That's why he tried to kill me." Sheriff Byers' face changed. "Ma'am, that's a serious accusation. He beat me, took my truck, dumped me 50 miles from nowhere in a storm and drove away. If Mr. Kern hadn't stopped, I'd be dead." The lawyer recovered quickly. "Sheriff, clearly Mrs. Howell is distraught. Perhaps we should continue this conversation in a more official setting." "Get the hell off my land," Silas said. Not loud, didn't need to be. The lawyer looked at him, looked at the rifle, calculated odds and decided against them. "This isn't over. We'll be back with proper documentation." You do that." They left, the black Dodge kicking up dust, the sheriff following behind with his lights off. Silence fell like a hammer. Elena turned to Silas. "I can explain. You lied." I didn't. You let me think you had nothing. Let me—" He stopped, jaw working. "You played me for a fool." That's not what happened." "Then what? You were testing me? Seeing if the poor rancher would help the rich lady?" Iris stepped between them. "Now hold on. Did you know?" Silas turned on her. "I saw the deed that first night. Didn't say nothing because it wasn't my business." "Jesus Christ." He put his hand over his face. "Everybody knew but me." "You knew." Elena's voice broke. "Iris told you the first night and you didn't care. You said it yourself. Didn't change nothing for you." "Well, that was before I—" He stopped. "Before you what?" "Before I thought—" He couldn't finish. Elena felt something crack open in her chest. "You think I lied? You got a whole room upstairs you won't talk about. A lamp burning for someone. Who's the liar?" His face went white. "That's different," he said. "How? We both got ghosts. Difference is mine are trying to kill me." So what was I? Free protection? Place to hide while you figured out your next move?" The words hit like a slap. "How dare you? You tell me. You're the one with 22,000 acres sitting on some millionaire rancher's charity. You feel good about yourself?" Elena's voice shook. "Saving the poor helpless woman made you feel like a hero. That ain't why." "Then why? Guilt? Pity? Because you sure as hell didn't do it. Because you saw me as—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "As what?" "Forget it. No, Say it. As someone worth knowing. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Not worth saving, worth knowing. The air went out of the room. Silas stared at her. That's what you think? I don't know what to think. I don't know you. You know me better than most people ever have. You're a stranger who picked me up off the highway. That's all. She saw the words land. Saw them cut through whatever had been building between them and leave nothing but bleeding edges. All right then. His voice was flat, empty. Guess I know where we stand. He walked out. Screen door banged shut behind him. Elena stood there shaking. Iris reached for her, but she pulled away, went to her room, shut the door. That night, Elena looked out her window at the upstairs room across the hall. The lamp was dark. For the first time in 11 years, Silas had put it out. She pressed her forehead against the glass and understood what she'd done. She'd called him a stranger, and he'd believed her. The one thing he was most afraid of, that people only wanted him for what he could give them, never for who he was. She'd confirmed, and now the light he'd kept burning for his dead son was gone. She'd broken something sacred. Outside, distant coyotes howled, hunting sounds, nothing answered back. They were small, size 2. Little cowboy boots, brown leather worn at the toes where a 7-year-old had scuffed them running. Silas sat on a hay bale in the dark, turning them over in his hands like he was trying to remember what they'd look like on feet that would never walk again. You gonna tell her? Iris said from the doorway. Or are you gonna let that child think she broke you? She didn't break nothing that wasn't already... He stopped. Broken. Iris came closer. Lord have mercy, Silas. You've been broken 11 years. She's the first thing tried to fix you. Didn't ask to be fixed. No, you asked to die slow, and I let you, because I didn't know how to stop you. She sat down beside him. But that girl upstairs, she's leaving. Come morning, she'll ask you to drive her to El Paso, and you'll do it because you're too damn stubborn to fight for something good. She called me a stranger, 'cause you let her think you cared about the money when you didn't. You let her believe a lie instead of telling her the truth. What truth? That you stopped because you saw someone who needed you, and for the first time in 11 years, you let yourself need somebody back. Silas's hands tightened on the boots. What would he say, you think, if he could see me now? What would he want you to say to her? Silas couldn't answer that. Elena was packing when Iris found her. The clothes she'd borrowed, folded. The boots Silas had bought her, set by the door, the deed in her jacket pocket. You leaving? Iris asked. I have to. Elena didn't look up. I said things I can't take back. So say different things. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. Iris sat on the bed. You called him a stranger. He called you a liar. You're both wrong, and you're both too scared to admit it. Elena finally looked at her. I heard him. Yes, you did. The lamp, I know. And he put it out because of me. And he put it out because you made him feel something other than grief for the first time since that boy died. And that terrified him. Iris took Elena's hand. You want to know what really happened? July 4th, 1977? Elena nodded, throat tight. Silas went to town. 30 miles. Jacob wanted to come, but Silas said no. It was too hot. He'd be back before supper. He was buying fireworks for the holiday. Sparklers, mostly. Jacob loved sparklers. Iris's voice broke. When he got home, the sun was setting. He called for Jacob. No answer. Checked out the house. The barn. Then he saw the stock tank. Elena closed her eyes. The boy's toy boat was floating in the middle. Jacob had been trying to reach it, leaned too far. He was 7 years old, and the water was over his head, and there was nobody there to... Iris couldn't finish. Oh, God. Silas pulled him out, tried everything. CPR, breathing, begging. But he'd been under too long. Iris wiped her eyes. When the ambulance came, Silas was still holding him, wouldn't let go. They had to pry that baby out of his arms. Elena was crying now, couldn't stop. He blames himself, has every day since, and when you showed up, half dead, on that highway, reaching for nothing, he saw Jacob, saw a second chance, saw someone he could save when he couldn't save his own son. That's not love, Elena whispered. That's guilt. It started as guilt, Iris said, but it didn't stay that way. You think he keeps lamp oil in the house for guilt? You think he drove 60 miles to find boots your size for guilt? She squeezed Elena's hand. That man is terrified because for the first time in 11 years, he wants something more than he wants to keep punishing himself. Elena found him in the barn an hour later. He was fixing fence wire, hands moving automatic, face blank as stone. Iris told me, she said, about Jacob, about what really happened. His hands stopped. Shouldn't have. I'm glad she did. Oh, don't change nothing. It changes everything. She came closer. You lost your son? And you still stopped for me. Storm was bad. Stop. Her voice cracked. Just stop. You saved my life. I know why now. I know you saw him when you saw me reaching. Don't. Oh, and I know you think that makes it guilt instead of, it was guilt. He finally looked at her. When I saw your hands on that road, for 1 second, I thought I was seeing him, calling me back, giving me a chance to, he couldn't finish, to save him. To not be the man who let his son drown while he was buying goddamn sparklers. His voice broke. So yeah, it was guilt. That what you wanted to hear? Elena stepped closer. You think you saved me out of guilt? You think that's all it was? What else would it be? Mercy, human mercy, the kind that costs something. She was crying now, the kind I didn't think existed anymore. He shook his head. You don't understand. I understand exactly. Her voice went soft. I called you a stranger, but I know who you are. You're the man who stops when everyone else drives by, even when it hurts, even when it's breaking you open. You stop. Silas stood there, fence wire forgotten in his hands, and for the first time since that July afternoon in 1977, he let someone see him cry. I should have been there, he whispered. Should have been watching. He was 7 years old. He needed me, and I was buying sparklers like that mattered, like any of it. It wasn't your fault. I was his father. You were human. Wasn't enough. Elena reached for his hand. He let her take it. You can't save everybody. I know. But you try anyway, and that's what makes you good. Not perfect, good. They stood there in the barn, holding hands like it was the only thing keeping either of them from drowning. I'm still leaving, Elena said finally. He pulled back. What? I have to. Dwight's coming. You saw the sheriff watching. The phone call. He knows where I am. She looked at him. And I won't let him hurt you the way I already did. The way you... Understanding hit. Elena, no. I broke your lamp. I called you a stranger. I made you think. She couldn't finish. You didn't break nothing. I didn't let break. That doesn't make it hurt less. She touched his face, gentle. You gave me safety when I had nothing. You asked for nothing back. And I threw it in your face because I was so sure nobody could want me without wanting something from me. I don't want nothing from you. I know. That's why I have to go. Before Dwight shows up with lawyers and guns, and her voice shook. I won't let him take from you what he took from me. Silas caught her wrist. What if I don't want you to go? Then you're a fool. Already established that. She laughed through tears. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protecting. Yes, you do. You just don't know it yet. She pulled away before he could stop her and walked back to the house, leaving him standing there with fence wire and grief and the first real wanting he'd felt in 11 years. That night, Iris brought supper to the table. 3 plates, like always, but Elena's was untouched. She up in her room? Silas asked. Packing. He set down his fork, looked at the empty chair. The lamp, still dark upstairs, still unlit. What would he want me to do? He asked quietly. Jacob? Yeah. Iris smiled sad. He'd want you to stop letting dead people make your choices. Silas sat there a long time. Then he stood, went upstairs, and for the first time in 11 years, he opened Jacob's door. The room was exactly as it had been. Toy trucks, cowboy bedspread, boots on the shelf. He picked up the lamp, lit it, carried it downstairs and set it on the kitchen table, where Elena could see it burning. Then he sat on the porch in the dark and waited for morning to see if she'd stay. 11 years, 4,000 days. And the headstone looked the same as it had the afternoon they lowered the small casket into New Mexico dirt. Jacob Matthew Kern, 1970 to 1907, beloved son. Silas stood with his hat in his hands, staring at letters carved in granite like they might rearrange themselves into something he could understand. Father Miguel was across the cemetery, tending other graves. Saw Silas arrive, nodded once and kept his distance. Some grief needed room. The cottonwood leaves rustled overhead, dry whisper like breathing. 5 o'clock bells rang from the mission chapel, Angelus calling the faithful to prayer. Silas didn't move. He'd avoided this place for 11 years. Told himself Jacob wasn't here, wasn't in the ground, wasn't anywhere he could reach. But standing here now, he understood the truth. Jacob was everywhere. In the lamp, in the closed room. In every person Silas saw hurting. That was the problem. He knelt finally, one knee in the grass, and spoke for the first time. Don't know if you can hear me. His voice came out rough. Don't even know if I believe you can. Your mama did. She'd tell me, you're with God, you're safe, you're happy. The wind picked up, leaves scattered across the headstone. I can't believe that, because if you were happy, you wouldn't still be in that room. In that lamp. In every goddamn person I see reaching for help. His hands twisted the hat brim. I saved a woman a few weeks back, found her dying in the desert, brought her home. He stopped, swallowed. She's leaving today, going back to the man who hurt her because she thinks staying would hurt me more. Silence. Just wind and distant bells. She called me a stranger, and maybe she's right. I don't know how to be anything else. Don't know how to let people in without seeing you. Without thinking, if I just save enough of them, maybe it'll change what happened. Maybe it'll bring you... He couldn't finish. The truth was heavier than stone. I should have been there. Should have been watching. You were 7 years old. You needed me, and I was buying sparklers. Like that mattered. Like any of that. His voice broke completely. Father Miguel stayed across the cemetery, head bowed, knew sacred grief when he saw it. Silas pressed his palm against the headstone. Cold granite. Final. She said I'm the man who stops when everyone else drives by. He laughed, bitter. But I didn't stop for you. Wasn't there? And I've been trying to fix that ever since. Stopping for everybody else. Like it'll change. Like it'll bring you back. It won't. He turned. Elena stood at the cemetery gate, backlit by late sun. She'd followed him. Thought you were leaving, he said. I was. She walked closer, stopped between the grave and the chapel door, light on one side, shadow on the other. Then I realized I'd be doing the same thing you've been doing for 11 years. I ain't running. You've been running standing still. She looked at the headstone, reading the name. Jacob. Hearing her say it cracked something open. You can't save everybody, she said quietly. The words he'd said to her in the kitchen, days ago. Different lifetime. I know. But you try anyway. She met his eyes. And that's what makes you good. Not perfect. Good. He stood, legs shaking. She's right, your mama. He's probably wherever kids go when he couldn't say it. I think he sent me to you, Elena said, so you'd finally come home. Silas looked at her standing there, this woman he'd pulled from the desert, who'd broken his lamp and called him a stranger and somehow made him feel human again. You said you were leaving. I changed my mind. Because? Because I'm tired of running. And because Dwight's coming either way, she stepped closer. When he does, I'm not facing him alone. And you're not facing him for me. Then how? Together. She held out her hand. If you'll have me. He looked at her hand, at Jacob's grave. At the chapel door, where Father Miguel stood watching, waiting to see what mercy looked like when it finally won, Silas took her hand. Let him come, he said. They walked back to the truck together, leaving the grave under the cottonwood. The lamp would burn tonight. The door would stay open. And for the first time in 11 years, Silas Kern felt something other than grief. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. The kind that comes when you finally stop punishing yourself and start living for the person in front of you instead of the ghost behind you. Elena woke to truck engines and her heart already racing. She looked out. Black Silverado, lifted, chrome gleaming. 2 more men in a beat-up Ford behind it. Dwight. She was at the window, hands shaking, when Silas appeared in her doorway. Rifle in one hand, not holding it like a weapon, just presence. You don't have to, she started. I know. This isn't your fight. Any fight on my land is my fight. He looked at her. You ready? She wasn't, but she nodded anyway. They came out on the porch together. Iris was already there, coffee pot in hand, like this was just another morning. Dwight climbed out of the Silverado, all smile and silver belt buckle catching the low sun. He looked good, always did. Handsome in the way that made people trust him before they knew better. Elena, He opened his arms. Baby, you had us worried sick. Don't call me that. His smile tightened. Come on now, let's talk, just you and me. Anything you gotta say it here. Dwight switched tactics, turned to Silas. Mr. Kern, I appreciate you looking after my wife, but this is a family matter. Your wife says otherwise. Did she tell you she's not well? Gets confused since her daddy died. The stress. I'm not confused. Elena's voice cut clean. You forged Dad's will, tried to steal my ranch. When I wouldn't sign, you beat me and left me to die. Dwight laughed, forced, too loud. You see, boys? He gestured to the ranch hands. Paranoid delusions. The doctor said, What doctor? The one you paid? His mask slipped, just for a second, long enough for everyone to see the anger underneath. Sheriff Byers pulled up then, got out slow, hat in hand. Folks, let's everybody calm down. Sheriff. Elena didn't take her eyes off Dwight. I'm pressing charges. Attempted murder, forgery, fraud. Based on what evidence? Dwight's voice went cold. Based on this. She pulled the deed from her pocket. The original will, Witnessed and notarized, all 22,000 acres, sole heir. Your name's nowhere on it. Dwight went very still. You don't have that. Had it the whole time. In my jacket, the one you threw in the truck bed before you dumped me on Highway 9. Something broke in his face. You were supposed to die, he said, quiet, almost to himself. You were supposed to, he lunged, crossed the property line in 3 strides, hand reaching for her throat, and Silas stepped between them. Didn't raise the rifle, just stood there. That's far enough, he said. Dwight stopped. They were a foot apart, Dwight younger, stronger, shaking with rage. Silas older, calmer, certain. Move, old man. No. I'll kill you. Maybe. Silas didn't blink. But you'll have to go through me to get to her. That what you want? Dwight's hand went to his belt. One of the ranch hands stepped back, wanted no part of this. Don't, Elena said, stepped forward in front of Silas. You want to shoot me? Do it. But you'll go to prison. And you'll lose everything anyway. Dwight stared at her, at Silas, at the ranch hands watching, at his whole careful plan falling apart. That ranch is all His voice broke. I worked 12 years. I bled for it. You did, Elena said, softer now. But you can't earn love by taking it. My daddy loved you like a son, and you killed that by wanting more than he gave. He didn't promise you me, or my land. She took a breath. Walk away. Leave the territory. I won't press charges. You get to start over. That ranch is everything. No, it was never yours. But you could have been family. You chose property instead. Sheriff Byers finally found his spine. Mr. Howell, I think you better leave. Now. Dwight looked at Elena one last time. Saw something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Strength, maybe, or freedom. Then he looked at Silas, saw the quiet protection, the willingness to die for her. Everything Dwight had pretended to be. He got in his truck, drove away. The ranch hands followed without a word. Elena's knees went out. Silas caught her. You okay? I thought he'd shoot. He's a coward. Cowards don't shoot when people are watching. He steadied her. You did good. I let him go. That's called mercy. It's harder than killing. She looked up at him. You stood there, unarmed, and had to. Why? Because 11 years ago, I wasn't there when someone needed me. His voice went quiet. Wasn't going to let that happen again. She understood then. This wasn't just about her. This was about Jacob. About Silas finally believing he could protect someone, finally forgiving himself for the one time he couldn't. You saved me, she whispered. We saved each other. Iris brought coffee. They sat on the porch and watched the sun finish rising over the desert, and nobody said anything for a long time. They didn't need to. The seasons were turning. September coming in with cooler nights, the desert starting to breathe again after the long summer. Elena and Silas sat together most mornings now. Coffee, silence, watching light spread across the mesas. Comfortable quiet, the kind that didn't need filling. Dwight was gone, Wyoming, last anyone heard. Sheriff had come by once to apologize, hat in hand. The town was warming to her, slow as desert thaw, but warming. I've been thinking about that room, Elena said. Silas looked at her. Yeah? Can I see it? Long pause, then okay. She lit the lamp, brass and glass and familiar weight now, and carried it upstairs. Silas followed, stopped at the doorway. 11 years he'd stood here, never crossed. Elena entered Jacob's room. Toys frozen in 1977, boots on the shelf, everything waiting. She set the lamp on the windowsill, opened the window for the first time in a decade. Night air came in, cool and sage-scented. The flame flickered but held. He'd want you to let it shine, she said quietly. Not hide it. I don't know how. Like this. And she stepped aside. You come in, and you remember what you had, not what you lost. Silas took one step over the threshold, his breath caught. Elena took his hand. They stood together, looking at lamplight in the open window. I'm sorry I wasn't there, he whispered, but you're here now. Silence, wind moving the curtain. Iris told me something, Elena said, about debts. What? Some debts you can't pay back. You can only pay forward. She looked at him. You saved me, not to save him, because that's who you are, the man who stops. His eyes were wet. He nodded. And maybe, she said softly, maybe he sent me here, so you'd finally come home. They walked downstairs together, left the lamp burning in the open window, not a shrine anymore, a beacon. On the porch at dawn, Iris brought fresh coffee, smiled, said nothing. You gonna stay? Silas asked. For a while. How long's a while? Elena smiled. Long enough to see what we're building. What are we building? Don't know yet. She took his hand. But something good. In the distance, mile marker 47 caught the morning light. Where he'd found her, where everything changed. The desert stretched forever, empty and beautiful, and full of promise. Yeah, Silas said quietly. Something good.